Okay, hello, morning, I'm Sal. I'm on the way to the beach to have a lunch, and I decided today to stop in Ostia Antica, the ancient Ostia, where we have the remains of the city port of Rome, which was quite important for Rome for a number of centuries, around 8 centuries. And today we're going to have a little stroll around, nothing like a tour, something just a little stroll, which is this beautiful day, just below these pine trees or umbrella trees, and we're going to walk, and I'm going to show you just a few things. Right now we are still outside the city walls, so which means outside Ostia, and this is the reason why we see over here on the left all these remains that are what we consider the necropolis of Ostia, as all the period of the Roman time, either Republican period or Imperial Age time. We used to bury people outside the city of Rome. The reason was, of course, disease, and over here we have this necropolis which has been dug out from the 19th centuries on. And over here they used to have either arcosolium tombs, or they used to have the typical niches where they used to put the urns, the columbarias we used to call it, according to what status you had in those days. And now we are walking along the old basalt blocks, which is still the Via Ostiense, and we are leading towards the main entrance, which is Porta Romana. Porta Romana and Porta Marina is on the other side, so we are still outside. This was the road, the way the Romans used to pave these roads. Of course, they were, in the past they used to be very even and smooth for the chariots. And here we are still on the Ostiense Road. Today, of course, looks bumpy, and it is bumpy, but this is due to the fact that it hasn't been maintained at all. So as I said, we are still outside the city walls, so outside Ostia, and over here in this area we have a little map which is interesting for you to understand how Ostia it looks like. Of course, in this map over here we have where we are located right now. We are on the eastern section. We're going to walk towards the western section. North is on this side where the river is, and this is south. Of course, this is the Tiber River, as it used to be in the past. Today, that's the course, the bed of the Tiber River, which has been changing through the centuries. And here there is a nice little pictures to give you an idea how Ostia looks like. Right now we are over here. This is a part of the necropolis which has been dug out. We are still along the Ostiense. We are going to reach the main city gate called Porta Romana, because we are, of course, coming from Rome. These used to be the city walls, going all the way down to the coastline. This is the Tiber, and this is the reason why on this northern section we used to have all the warehouses where all the storage goods they used to be kept in those days. At the moment that we get into the Porta Romana, we are going to get through the Decumano Maximo. The Decumano Maximo goes from east to west. That's the main thing, and we're going to see some of these buildings, the Cisari location where they used to have the bath. The Cisari, they used to be nothing else than the cab driver of those days, that they used to take people all the way around Ostia, because Ostia was growing up not fast, but was spreading out very large area. To give you an idea, I have over here a sort of a picture, a description that used to show you the castrum. This used to be a typical castrum that the Romans used to build at the beginning. It was a sort of a Roman camp. You see the city walls, the two streets, the Decumano Massimo and the Cardo Maximo. At the intersection there used to be the Forum, and consider that according to what we know, Ostia was settled by the fourth king of Rome. His name was Anco Marcio, or Ancus Marcius, even though the first remains, archaeological remains that we have today, they are going back mid of 300 before Christ. But to give you an idea, when we know that Ostia was born, it used to cover an area of around 6 acres. And over here you can have another description which I love to show to you. This is when we had the city starting. This is the castrum, as I was mentioning before. Then started growing up. You can see that over here, growing up. And you can see that then the city walls, we're talking about 1st century before Christ, and then this is Ostia after the 3rd century after Christ. So see how big it is right now. And at this point of history, we are talking about 170 acres of land taken by this new city port, because that's what Ostia used to be. Ostia was mainly born for one reason, to defend the mouth of the Tiber. Of course, Rome was born thanks to the fact that the Tiber was where today Rome is located, because the Tiber is crossing the city of Rome. The idea was to protect the river, because the river was important for commercial reasons, and also because down here by the coastline, in those days, we used to have salt ponds. And salt was so important in those days, which we had people coming from the northern eastern section of Italy to come all the way down in order to get to the coastline and to get salt. Salt was used as a currency. That's the reason why today we still say salary, wage, and salt was used also to preserve food, was the refrigerators of the past. That's the reason why salt was so important. This is the reason why this area became very soon important, and this is the reason why Rome grew up so fast, because it was a passage from the northern eastern section to the coastline to come and pick up salt. We are still walking along the Ostiense road, so we are still outside the city of Ostia. We still have on the left, which means on the southern part, we still have these necropolis, but we are now approaching the main entrance, what we call Porta Romana. Today we have a few remains left over here, and consider that this gate was magnificent, as well as even the necropolis. Have a look over here on these pictures, how necropolis, this is a reconstruction, how the necropolis they used to be in those days for wealthy families, very similar to what it happens today, or the columbari, where the urns they used to be placed, and in those days. And imagine that this was really the leading way to this town, that especially in the Imperial Age time, some of the emperors gave a great care to this place and became the most important city port of Rome. They used to carry everything from here to Rome, from a needle to an elephant, all the way along the Tiber with barges that they were towed by animals. Here you can have something interesting. Of course, today we are walking on a higher level than what it used to be. This is not the before Christ level. Further down I'm going to show you, but this street is going back, after Christ. You can see over here where we do have the level which probably was before Christ. You can see these blocks of tufa material, which is one of the two volcanic materials that the Romans have been using since the beginning to build either roads with basalt or constructions with this sort of volcanic sand. So right now we are just getting into Porta Romana, and soon after we get into Porta Romana we have a sort of opening space. The opening space, which we have a sort of a fountain on the left, and this was a sort of a taxi stand station. So this is where we used to have all these cisari standing over here waiting for people to be taken all the way wherever they had to go through, through Ostia. And meantime, on the northern section, which we used to have the Tiber just running very close to us, which today is not any longer due to the fact that the course of the Tiber through the centuries has been changing. But over here we are where the Cisari, they used to have their bath. The Romans, one of the first things that they used to build used to be bath, where they could relax and they could rest a little bit, some bigger, some smaller, and these one they were, a sort of a corporation. You can see down here we used to have also sort of shops over here, and consider that this was the main street, of those days. And keeping going, consider that these remains, they are, of course, just the sort of a foundation of what Ostia used to be, due to the fact that Ostia has been, first of all, pillaging, second of all, it has been covered up, but it has been mainly pillaging by people using the material, even the bricks, not just the marble. We still have a lot of things on the spot, but the majority has been all taken, and this was, of course, with the barbarian invasion. This area was a sort of a dangerous area, being so close to the coast. Even though through the history, even some of the popes, they have been trying to, bring back to life in Ostia. You can see down below here when I was mentioning what it was before Christ and after Christ. That is the level. You can see these blocks, they used to be most probably, before Christ. But this to tell you, and further up, we're going to see that we have one road above the other. So, what was typical of Rome in those days, to build and rebuild over and over. So what everybody keeps on saying, built like a lasagna. That's what it used to, it used to be. And consider that this, it has been an interesting place, because grew up a lot with the trade that was, improving from all the Roman Empire, because Ostia was a sort of a cosmopolitan city, having a lot of people coming from all over, a lot of languages spoken, and this was an important commercial area, because imagine all these people from Africa, from Asia Minor, that they used to sell their products. They used to have an office over here. What we're going to see the square of the corporation, and they used to have these offices in which they publish their products, and they used to have business, what today we call brokers, and it's interesting because nothing is new in this world. Everything was already known in those days. The only difference is that we have a different way how to work. That's what it used to be. And what they used to carry over here, everything was carried over here and then taken down to the city of Rome. And we are still along the Decumano Maximo, and of course some of these areas or warehouses, they have been transformed through the centuries, but you can have an idea what we are dealing with. In this picture you have something interesting, because just below us, where we are now walking, you can see that the streets they were made out of several different layers of material, topping with the basalt. What we used to have down at the bottom, first of all, the sewer system, because Ostia had the sewer system as well as the city of Rome, and where the sewers they used to go all into the Tiber and then into the open sea. And then a little bit higher, what we used to have, lead pipes to carry drinking water over here. And then they used to pave, and along we used to have all shops. So over here, all these openings that you see, they used to be practically all shops that they were selling any sort of products with their symbols sticking outside, telling you what they were selling from. And consider another interesting thing is that what we still have today. Today we do have shopping malls, but if you go downtown, you will see all these little shops that are specialized to sell just a single product. A larger variety of that product, but just a single product. So that's where they were specialized, and we still have today, so nothing has been changing today. On the southern part, since now we are inside Ostia, we used to have all these domus. Ostia became, of course, a rich city. We had a lot of merchants living over here in Ostia, and this is the reason why we used to have beautiful domus, homes. They were also 2 or 3 stories high, as well as we used to have these insulae. Insula used to be nothing else than a condominium apartment that we're going to see afterwards, for people that laborers, plebe, that they didn't have a lot of money. And now we still walking over here. We are trying to get as far as one of the baths that we're going to see in a while, and you will see what they used to be, these baths. What we have is the Neptune bath, just around here, and we're going to get up to the terrace and we're going to see how that looks like. And so you can have, mainly we still have a lot of mosaics over here, still on the spot, due to the fact that it was impossible for them to pick them up from the ground. And that's the reason why they're still there on the spot. And on top of that, for centuries they've been covered up by sediments and dirt. This is a sort of a reconstruction of how the bath of Neptune they used to be. A very large area in which it was public, so you could go. Certain point of history we used to have morning, for ladies, afternoon for men. But before Augustus time, we had them unisex, so everyone could be, at the same time. That's the reason why most probably the population of Rome increased so quickly and so much. But then, from the time of Augustus, that's what happened. We know that he decided to have ladies and men in a different time, just to make sure. Some of these mosaics that you can still see, they are still over here on the spot, and you see how they are very well preserved. And consider that here we used to have the three famous pools: Frigidarium, Tepidarium, Calidarium. So these were hot water, warm water, cold water. We used to have, a lot of the gym outside, which was in the open air, because it was in the open air. And consider that here you can see Terme di Nettuno, Terme, the name Terme comes from thermal bath. That's what it used to be. And consider that this was one of the past time and relaxing time of the Romans. The Romans loved, these bath, and for many different reasons. You could have a massage, mud bath as well. You could have meetings with the ladies, because of course we know that Rome was one of the most important cities as far as a number of prostitutes, which Rome was so large, and of course these ladies, these prostitutes, they used to accompany and they used to keep company all these guys that they used to go to these baths in those days. And keeping on going along the Decumano Maximo, we are approaching the theater. And the theater, which today, of course, is a reconstruction of what it used to be. One of the things that I forgot to tell you was that, at a certain point, the population of Ostia reached a number of 80,000 people, which for those days was not small at all. If we compare with Athens, before Christ, they used to have probably 30,000 people. But I mean, Ostia grew up and became very, very important. This is another interesting picture, because over here we have this is the fountain that you see just right over here, the remains with these marble inscriptions that you find over here. Behind us, in front of us, we have the theater with La Quinta, and then behind the theater we have the square, Corporation Square. This is where we used to have all these broker offices, which we're going to see in a while. And then, of course, all the horeas, so which means these storage places in which these ship could dock and unload all the merchandises coming over here in this area. And we're going to get and see the theater just from the top, to give you an idea. Still today, in the summertime, we do have a sort of concerts and plays right over here. These, at these in this theater over here. But going back to what we were talking about, the Neptune bath, I would like just to mention, I was mentioning the warm water, the cold water, the hot water, and this was the Frigidarium, cold water, Tepidarium, warm water. Then we use the Calidarium, hot water. Then we used to have in this bath steam bath, the Laconica, so where you could have a sauna, because that's what you could do in those days. Or you can have the changing room in those days, ad auditoria, or the open air swimming pool, the natatio. That's what we used to have. And have a look. This is the theater, and you can see the Corporation Square just behind it. That's to give you an idea about what we are going to see, over here. The theater, which was built by Augustus, and then it was enlarged by Commodus. That's the theater. Of course, don't forget that during the Roman era, we could not have actresses, because it was not a good job for a woman. So we used to have all actors, and whenever they had to play a role which was involved a lady or a woman, they used to wear a wig, and they used to to switch into women, and they used to do the plays. That's what it used to be. Even in a Greek time was a sort of this situation. And the Corporation Square instead behind that which we're going to go. It used to be instead the commercial heart of the city, and this was where we can see a lot of these broker offices. Have a look from the top over here. You can have an idea of what Ostia is, and consider that, as I was mentioning before, some of the emperors that have been really involved in the construction of it. Claudius, Trajan, built the new port after the 100. Tiberius was another one that spent money on this one. Claudius was another of the emperors that was really investing money on the city port, because it was very important for the Romans, since they were becoming the leaders of the Mediterranean, to have also an important fleet which could go all the way around the Mediterranean area. And now we're going to walk down in order to go and see this this area where we have the most important square as far as a commercial is talking. And right now we are going to just get down from here, and we're going to go down to the Corporation Square. Okay, let's try to get down. Okay, let's make sure that we don't fall from here, because it is not a nice thing to do. And imagine that the acoustic is perfect. The difference between the Greek theaters and the Roman theaters was that the Romans used to build theaters just even on a plain area. So they were building the theater. Meantime, the Greeks, they used to exploit the hillside to build theaters. And of course the acoustics was perfect, Right now we have a little tractor cutting the grass in the corporation square, but it doesn't bother us anyway. And now we are just getting at the corporation street and square. Have a look, you know, here and there we still have some of these marble still on the spot. You can understand what kind of work they used to have, and you know, this was an amazing place rich, and of course when a place is rich, is easy, you know, to spend the money, to embellish, to show the power of this area over here. And now here we are approaching the corporation square, and this was the center of the Roman maritime trade, and all the brokers they used to be right over here. And we're going to walk a little bit around, but over here we have another picture which might show you the area. And now we're going to have a little walk around, and you can understand. Imagine that each of these empty space used to be, you know, an office, and consider that over here at the entrance they used to have these mosaics in which you could understand what they were dealing with. So according to what you were looking for, you know, you could understand you know, what they were selling and where you had to go. And this was all the square. So you could walk along here. You could see these mosaics on the floor. Some of them they are still visible. Maybe this one was a two-weight grain. That was a sort of a scale, most probably. And these were coming from all over the Roman Empire. Now in the center you can see the temple of Ceres, I mean what is left of the temple of Ceres, and of course the goddess of the crops, of agriculture, food, and imagine that we used to have over here in this square all the way around a sort of 78 offices where you could get whatever you were looking for in those days. And as you can see, some of these mosaics are still very well preserved, as I was saying, because of all these sediments that they covered up. The river was not too far from here, so the floods and the dirt have been covering up, and when they start digging this area, they realized that we used to have a lot of interesting things. And the corporation square was with different cities for instance, Sardinia, Gaul, Narbonne, Egypt for grain, and Roman Africa, ship owners, office of grain measures. I mean, they used to sell any sort of things. We used to have shops where they used to we used to have brokers to deal with wild animals. Don't forget that the Colosseum with the Venationes required an enormous amount of animals, and we used to have a specialized broker to be able to bring back here alive animals from exotic areas. Or we used to have ship owners that they use to ship whatever you wanted to ship all the way around the Mediterranean area. And you could deal with them because you could have either a private ship, so which means, for your load, only ship for yourself. You could have an insurance load, which used to cost a lot of money, or you could take a risk without insuring it. If it was lost, on the way, then you could lose all your fortune, because a lot of these merchants they used to probably put all their money, over here, and or otherwise you could share the ship with somebody else. Let's say you need to bring. Sorry, but there is this. Grass cutter around here, but it's okay. And imagine you could share these ship. Your load has to go down to Spain. He has got another load which has to stop in France first. So you could share the cost. And this was really quite important. Here there was the biggest business in those days, and consider that Rome lived with all things supplied from Ostia, because everything used to come to Ostia, no doubts. As I was saying before, here they used to unload all the merchandises and then loading sort of barges towed all the way along the Tiber as far as the city of Rome. From here you can have this view of these theaters started by Augustus, who used to love plays a lot, but this also tells you the importance that Ostia was going to get from then on, because especially in the Imperial Age time, Ostia's been growing up, with the expansion of the Roman Empire, because that's what the idea was. Rome is expanding towards the Eastern world, and Ostia was getting more merchandising coming from this new conquest done by Rome. And right now I would like to just go where we have some fullonica. What a fullonica used to be. A fullonica was nothing else than a sort of Chinese laundry. That's what used to be. Of course, they shouldn't be located centrally, because the smell was not one of the best. You could smell it, and we also go and see, if we are able to get all the way down to what we used to call the latrines or the forica, these public, restrooms of those days. Here we are back in the Decumano Maximo, and now we're going to make left over here, and we're going to go in the residential living quarter. Here we are. Here we have a fullonica, where you see these sort of square holes. This is where they used to pass from one section to the other, the clothing that they were washed in those days over here. Of course, they've been using urine due to the fact that it is formed with is made out of ammonia, and this was the way to clean these clothing in the Roman days. The smell was not one of the best smell you could have, but at least was the way to wash these cloth. And over here now we are just walking towards the residential area where we have some of the houses. Here and there we still have some of these marble floors left. Imagine what happened in 1600 years. Over here you can see that the marble is not best preserved, but use your imagination and imagine with all these marbles placed over here, all these patterns, geometrical figures. So this already tells you that this was a rich merchant living over here, because this was a status in those days. Of course, these homes, they used to be 2 stories high at least, and the top floor is all gone, because you can understand this area was probably flooded several times, from the Tiber, sediments, dirt. It has been covered up, but the top floor probably they were out from the ground, and people, they used to come and recycling these material. They came over here to pillaging these sections over here, and that's the reason why today we only have the ground level still standing up, because it's the last one that has been dug out. And walking through here, through this little road over here that lead us all the way to the most important bath, the bath of the Forum, which they are right in front of us. But before, I would like to show you what it used to be one of these houses over here, and to give you an idea. So don't forget, we are on the southern part, which means left of the Decumano Massimo. We used to have the residential area. Right, we used to have the aureas, the warehouses, and all the shops. And of course, everything was paved. The city was, a rich city. Merchants used to live over here. Then we used to have the plebe that was living just behind the Capitolium, and where we're going to go afterwards. And now I would like to get into this house, Domus della Fortuna Annonaria. This was a wealthy home. Domus means home, and we're going to see, now inside a couple of things that I would like to show you also, because here in this home we have found something that we don't find in many homes, even though we know that they used to have it, but we don't see it. Now I'm going to show you in a while. Before, I would like to show you this room with this mosaic, which is still very well preserved, as you can see, and also this other room with marble floor. So imagine 16, 17, 1800 years ago what this room looked like. And of course, this is the ground floor. We must have had another floor on the top. And now we are going to walk, and I'm going to show you Something interesting that we found in this house. You can see down there the steps that they used to lead you on the floor above us. This is to give you an idea. This was the peristyle, so imagine with the beautiful flowers all the way around, all these marble, all these niches with probably some statues or decorated with the stucco decorations. These were the steps to go all the way up to the top. And imagine all these floor full of marble, all these marble, just decorating all these structure over here, the niches which might have, either fountains with water or little statues. And over here, if you just come around over here, you might see something interesting. This is a private toilet, which is not really, we don't see them around a lot with all the discoveries that we have done. But this is just to give you that this was the private restroom of this house in the past. And now, you can see the marble top with one hole where, of course, you could sit. There was another marble slab just right, at the bottom where there was another hole, because, of course, in those days we used to have these private, or public restrooms that they used to look like this. Have a look over here. This is a public ones. So no privacy in those days. One could be sitting one next to the other. Of course, men one side, women on the other. But since the word privacy did not exist, was exactly, very normal to be sitting and socializing with the one next to you. And not toilet paper in those days, of course, but a wooden stick topped with the sponge, which was used as a toilet stick. And now we're going to get out from here. Okay, and now this is a typical forica. See, the two holes, a canal with fresh water running, with the stick and the sponge to clean yourself. No paper toilet in those days, not yet. We had to wait a few more centuries for, toilet paper. And now we are leaving Via della Fortuna Nonaria. We're getting right by the largest complex of thermal bath, the bath of the Forum. So this is the structure where we used to have these large baths, considered the best of all the baths over here in Ostia. And of course you have to use your imagination, but imagine all these marble floors, all these marble walls, which will give you an idea what it used to be, these places in the past. Another interesting thing that I like to show to you is the heating system. You know that the Romans, they used to heat, the walls. Have a look over here. These terracotta pipelines, they used to be placed sticking against the skeleton of the wall. Then they used to put marble slabs sticking right over here, and the steam was coming from the bottom. So at the bottom we used to have all the furnace, all the brick oven, in which they used to continuously burning wood, and the hot steam was coming up all the way and was heating all these walls. So imagine that this was a heated room. So this is just to give you an idea how advanced these people used to be. If you want to see something else which is interesting, look over here. Now we are getting, in a while, look, still over here you can see on the walls, in all these pipelines that they used to bring the steam all the way up to the top, and so you could feel warm being over here. And here we are in what we call Laconica. What is Laconica? It's the sauna of today. Imagine that these used to have a roof, of course a concave roof, not very high roof, but a concave roof with all these steam water, coming up from the bottom, and was, heating all these walls, and this was a sort of a sauna that today you call these little, Danish sauna that you have around, or you can buy, you can take it home. Of course, this was one of the way to make sure how these people they could relax in those days. And here and there you still see some of the marble left over here. You still see here and there some of these mosaics, because imagine that these areas been totally pillaging through the centuries. You required material to build something. This was the best quarry where to come and pick up material. And now, here we are. Now we are getting right in the center of the Decumano Maximo and the Cardo, where the forum used to be, and where the Capitolium in front of us used to be. The Capitolium, the most important temple, that we used to have. Today, unfortunately, we have left just the structure of it, and here we are approaching again the Decumano Maximo, so we're going to be right in the middle of these two roads, the most important, west, east, north, south. And I would like to show you another couple things which are very interesting when you come down here. First of all, I would like to show you a reconstruction of it, so that you can have an idea what we are dealing with. This is the Capitolium. Don't forget it. Further up we used to have the Tiber, because we used to have the Tiber. This is the Decumano Maximo. And now we are going to walk all the way down here. We're going to see some of the these insulae, these condominium apartments for, poor people. Don't forget it over here. We have coming across some buildings 6 stories. So we are dealing with 66 feet high. And for those days, they were the skyscrapers of the past. This is just to give you an idea of what Ostia must have been in those days. And here we are by the Capitolium. And now you can see the idea how big it used to be. And this was the remains that we have today left. They're going back a time of Adrian, so 2nd century after Christ. That's when the present Capitolium was built. And was replacing the previous one built in the 1st century before Christ, that at the same time was built over an ancient temple one. And now we're going to see these little streets in which we're going to see some of these insulae. So don't forget, straight ahead of us, which means the north, we have the Tiber. And now we go back towards the east section, and we're going to see some of these, or whatever is left of these insulae. This is a sort of sewer system. That's what it used to look like in those days. And this is the street called Via Casa dei Dipinti, due to these Insula di Giove and Ganimede, because we have found some frescoes, of course not well preserved, but this is the street of the house of Diana, and over here we have a couple of interesting things. So consider this was the street, this was the sidewalk. You can see practically over here this was the sidewalk, this is the street. And now I'm going to show you something interesting. You believe that McDonald's is the first fast food ever built, but not really. We used to have in those days fast food. What is interesting over here is this. Look, this is where you find every single openings that you find over here. You see this little marble canal in which it used to be where wooden pieces were sliced in order to close the door. This was a sort of entrance door. So imagine that you have one wooden piece as high as this opening, you slice it down and you just hit the wall. Then you put the second one, the third one, and the fourth one has got the lock to lock, and this is the way that you lock. But this is what we call Thermopolium. And we're going to get in from this door over here, because here you can see also where the counter with food used to be. See some of the frescoes or whatever is left of the frescoes. They're not really well preserved, but this is an idea to give you what they used to sell over here. So this was the counter. This was the counter. Down below here, they used to have, the block of ice cubes, gigantic, in which they used to maintain food if it had to be maintained cold. Then another section as well where they used to keep these were sort of refrigerators desk that today we have in a bar. This was instead where everything cooked by this Thermopolium was displayed. You couldn't choose, you didn't have a menu. Over here you came, you could eat whatever was already cooked. This was the cheapest way to eat in those days, because of course noble families, they used to have slaves to go to the market to get some of the best food, because they could pay for, and then they could cook for the owners, and they could the owners, they could have outstanding meals. And so this is still the back side of this food counter, where the man stood over here and used to sell even to take away food in those days. So this is the first take it away food that we had. What is interesting over here is this big jug, this big container into the ground, which this was one way to maintain things longer and cold. See? Because it was into the ground and it used to, to be maintained, sort of cold. And then there was also an open area, an outdoor section, where if you wanted to eat over here, as you do today, McDonald's, you pick up your food, you go and you sit either outside or where you see tables available. This is what a Thermopolium used to be. Thermopolium, hot food to take it away or to eat over here. But that was the way how they used to eat the plebe in those days. So that's the idea. And here we are. Before finishing, I would like to show you the mill. This is where, of course, they used to grade it or grant the wheat. And if you want to have an idea, you can see this picture over here. You can see the mule that used to go all the way around, circling around. They used to be blind in order not to make him crazy. Because imagine all day keep on going on the same way, anti-clockwise. And so for this reason, this was the way that they used to, they used to have flowers made over here. Egypt, finito? Vai, andiamo dai.
So, time for lunch.
Time for lunch. See you next time. I hope you have enjoyed this little stroll around Ostia, which, we wanted to show you a little bit about what Ostia it is. And if you want in more details, when you come back in Rome, I would love to take you and to show you a lot of more of Ostia in more detailed things. Okay.
See you at the beach.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Okay. And here we are. After the stroll in ancient Ostia ruins, we have told you we were coming to have a lunch on the beach, and here we are. We are eating down at the beach. We have a tornarelli with the clams and mussels and the polpo, and then we have spaghetti with clams, or spaghetti with clams. And here we are. I hope you are not envious, but if you want, join us. When you come in Rome, we are here for you. Ciao, ciao. All the best.
Wow.
Buon appetito.
Buon appetito.